Hi, this is Fjorg the Builder. I'm here again, covering Eberron, Rising from the Last War. And specifically, we're looking at the miniatures that companion with this game setting. So in Eberron, Rising from the Last War, we're going to look at a few of the different creatures that we got when we opened up the miniature set. And we're going to start from the beginning here. And the beginning as far as the book organizes it. It's not in any specific order from me here. The De La Cour, these are specific leaders of the Mind Flayer armies and hives in Eberron. There are 2 outlined in this book of 6 known. And specifically, what we're going to look at is this gentleman here. Dern is one of the ones that we got a miniature of. And this is him here. So a very humanoid looking Mind Flayer. Dern would have his own lair, his own minions, even layer actions that are outlined here in the book. He is a CR24 creature, so this would be, if this was going to be an encounter in your campaign, this is definitely going to be at the end. You may fight against his minions, or come across some of his agents. You know of him, but being a CR24 creature, there's not a lot of campaigns that are going to get that far. But he is going to be a major agent. The Mind Flayers do exist within the cities. They're always trying to really just conquer. So there's a lot of literature in the Eberron series of books that'll talk about Mind Flayers invading the underworld of the city, especially in Sharn. So next we have the Clawfoot. Clawfoot. Would have loved to have gotten more of these, because these are kind of a mount, very commonly used as a mount in certain parts of the world. So this would be a traditional war mount for the halflings of the Talenta Plains. Because this is a medium creature, so only a small creature could ride on it. But it would be an interesting companion. It's a single challenge rating, has pack tackets, pounce, multi-attack. Would be a fun addition to a character if you're playing a halfling of some sort, and having this as your very capable and volatile animal companion. Say you're a Beastmaster Ranger. Now CR1 is not allowed, but I find the Beastmaster is a little underpowered. So I'm trying to find a good way to allow players to befriend higher level creatures to make the class more usable, along with making it not an action to command your creature. The creature should act independently unless you give it a command, so it should defend and attack naturally. So here we have the Dogon. Dogon. Sorry on my pronunciation. I probably don't get a lot of these right. But the Dogonaut and the Dolgrim, these are creatures corrupted by the first set of creatures at the beginning here. So the Daoskar, they took the goblin races, goblins and hobgoblins, and corrupted them. So this is a corrupted hobgoblin, or this would be a corrupted goblin. And so here's the corrupted goblin miniature, the Dogon. And here is the hobgoblin. So if you were encountering this fellow, you would also be encountering his minions, the Dogon and the Dogonut. So having multiples of those is not a problem. I got 2 of the Dolgram and then 3 of the Dogonauts when we opened up the boxes. If I was going to run a campaign with him as a villain or even something the players can interact with, I'd probably want a few more, but you can definitely, substitute a lot of different things for these on your table. Having 1 or 2 at least as a visual example is always helpful to your players. We got the Dusk Hag. Hags play Eberron has just a little bit of everything, which is what's great about it. It is this magically infused, semi-sci-fi, high-tech world, but the villains of this world, like a hag, it's not... it's just one of those dangerous Dungeons and Dragons, fey, evil creatures that you can encounter. So have the Dusk Hag here. So it's a pretty good sculpt. It matches pretty much exactly what the picture is. So next one is the Homunculus, an Iron Defender. Did get 2 of the Iron Defenders, but not the Homunculus. The Homunculus is pictured as a winged Iron Defender. But the Iron Defender here, I'm not sure what the Expedious Messenger is. It's probably a spell. It's a speedy flyer designed to quickly carry messages for its courier. Their speedy and efficient attitude makes Expedious messages quite chatty, and they natter on as fast as they move. These messengers come in a variety of forms, often looking like mechanical birds or sprites. So it's interesting, the homunculi, as it's shown there. The homunculus must be shown later in the book. Didn't get any of the inspired, but Undead play a fairly significant role in some of the story in Eberron. The Carnathi Undead, which we have several of. And so these ones are listed, these ones in the gold armor are listed as Carnathi zombies, which are not in the book. But the Carnathi Undead are unique because they were created by Carnath to help defend them in the war. And I believe the Order of the Emerald Claw was a big part of that. And there's a character later in this book, this individual here, which is a Bone Knight. These are paladins infused with bone armor. And so they control these undead armies, I think up to like squads of 10 or 11. So lots of these undead are locked up and kept away. But others are still out there under the command of rogue Bone Knights, which is a nice little encounter. These are challenge rating 3. So they're not just a simple skeleton. These would definitely be a challenge for your players. So Lady Illimaro. So it's a beautiful miniature right here with the wings and all that. This is a CR22 creature. So Lady Illimaro is a lich, and she has gotten many of the Bone Knights, and especially these undead, under her command now. So that's a good tie-in. This would be your big villain. You can have a Bone Knight champion as kind of the antagonist as your adventure goes along. But once again, I mean, the higher beings in this Eberron book are all challenge rating 20 and higher. So these aren't necessarily encounters that you're just going to throw around. This is a campaign and kind of thing. Or you just never, you speak of her, but never meet her. You foil her plans, stuff like that. So living spells. So reading the entry section here on this, let's get that so you can see the pictures here. Living spells. Of all the anomalies that emerged from the magical cataclysm that created the Mournland, the appearance of living spells might be the most mysterious. In some unknown fashion, the magical energies unleashed during the last war caused spells' effects to take on sentience. A living spell appears much like a normal spell effect, except that it has magical energy. Its magical energy endures indefinitely. Living spells haunt the Mournland. So there's Burning Hands, Living Lightning Bolt, and Living Cloud Kill. I didn't get the Burning Hands one, but we did get 2 of the Living Lightning Bolts and 1 Living Cloud Kill. So these would be in the Mournlands. And the Mournlands is a section of Corvair, the main continent in Eberron, that was destroyed in the last war. And other than these living spells, there's not a lot there unless it's undead or constructs, because the Mournland is a very chaotic area. Constructs can survive there just fine because they don't need to eat, breathe, or sleep. So the Lord Blades. I did not get this miniature, but I will be finding it and getting it because I think that this is a very cool story for this individual. He is the leader of a Warforged colony in the Mournland where they can live safely from humans. Very volatile and would be a very fun monster to run in a battle. It's a CR 18, so this is a little more realistic for an adventuring party to... Maybe an adventuring party of 14 or 15 might come against him and a couple allies. Very, very deadly encounter, but would be something quite fun. Well, here we are with the Rakshasa. We struggle with that. This is a named Rakshasa. They were used, there was a lot of fiends and such like that warred in Eberron. And these were lieutenants and generals, the Rakshasa, so this is a named one here. There is no companion miniature to it, although I would have liked to have had one. It's a really cool Rakshasa model, if they made one. But they didn't do a miniature for him or her. I don't recall if there's a miniature for this one. I'd have to look it up. But there's the Overlords. So, in the first days of the war, first days of the world, the children of Kyber rose from the darkness to reign over Eberron. The greatest among them were the Overlords. So we have Harak Tulkesh, which is this individual. Generally takes the form of a draconic and demonic figure. Then we have Sul Kadesh, which we have this model here. What's interesting about Sul Kadesh is that she is evil. I mean, she's lawful evil. But part of her story is that she takes on a lot of warlocks. So she could be the Great Old One as a figure for the Great Old One for one of your warlocks. But also she tends to inspire magical knowledge, invention of new spells, creation of new magical items, and this knowledge that she invokes does not necessarily bode well. It could be that this breakthrough results in a catastrophic item that could change the world for the worse. So using her as a reference for some sort of campaign story piece, your adventuring party has to locate an orb of massive power that was invented by a little-known gnomish artificer who had a momentary breakthrough in his magecraft. So definitely an interesting story piece in an Eberron campaign. Then we have, and I'm really just going to cover the creatures that I have models for. Tuskora Kori, I believe. These are Aberrations. The models are pretty neat. I like them. I got 2 of these. These would be a fun. They're challenge rating 7, so a little tough. But these are nightmarish creatures, obviously. I need to read up more on these ones. Haven't taken the time yet. Radiant Idols. So we got 2 of those as well. Not that I think you would ever really use 2 unless maybe they're in service to someone else. But the Radiant Idols are celestial beings that were banished, and mostly because they wanted humanity to worship them. And that was just a big no-no. And once again, we have Rakshasa shown again. These were used as the kind of the leading generals and officers in the armies that invaded Corvair. So then we have the Undying here, which are interesting. I don't feel that I would make a lot of use of these, but they are interesting nonetheless. So there's the model. It's very close to how it's pictured. That's one thing I really like, that the model matches what's pictured in the book. That's always very, very helpful. So the Undying are benevolent undead. These are elves that had great success, honor. They achieved a lot in life, and through rituals on their elven isle, they were granted undying life. And so these Undying soldiers and counselors, which there isn't a miniature for the counselor, I believe, or at least I didn't get it, they continue to exist, but only within the elven societies. They cannot exist outside the elven society. So it's something you would encounter on the elven island, but that they come from, but really isn't going to be walking through the middle of a major city or be an encounter in a dungeon. These are neutral good. So, but quite interesting. So if you were to have the elven society under attack, these would be allies. Or if you're going to do a campaign, you could even say, hey, I want my players to be Undying soldiers in this kind of micro world campaign where they have to live within the elven society. They're maybe newly made Undying, and they're coming up with how to live in this world of never-ending life, or unlife, whatever you want to call it. I didn't get any of these. The Vallon, Hawk, Hound, or Steed. I don't think the Hawk and the Hound aren't miniatures, but they did do a miniature for the Steed. So unfortunately, I did not get that. I would have liked to. It's cool. The Warforce Colossus and Warforce Titan. They don't have models for these in the set because this is a gargantuan and a huge. So if they did do models, they would be like the Sky Coach. They'd be independent models where you buy just that model. The Warforce Colossus, there aren't any active Warforce Colossus in Eberron after the last war. This section does include where you might find inactive Colossals. They are hollow inside, so there could be micro dungeons. Maybe you have to send the adventuring party to locate the body of this Warforce Colossus, venture inside, collect a magical artifact or a magical part that is needed, and that part will allow maybe some part of city infrastructure to stay powered, or it's needed to keep a uniquely built Warforged that has had some benefit to society, but because of the way that Warforged is built, they need this part from a Colossus to stay alive. There's a lot of different kind of story elements you can do. You can even have a Colossus come alive. These are challenge rating 25. This is not going to be... This is something that would destroy cities. There's a reason why these are all inactive. So, as a DM, if you're going to bring one of these into your campaign, be very cautious. This is a immensely powerful creature. Then we have the Titan. The Titans are really interesting. They're only a CR 8, so this is definitely something you can have in your campaign. They are semi-sentient. They have an intelligence of 3, so they don't speak, but they can understand languages. They're more construct than they are Warforge, in my opinion, because they're not sentient. They're lawful neutral. They just follow the commands of their creator. So you could have encounters with this. Then we get back to our Bone Knight. The Bone Knight right here, who commands undead armies. Let's see, it was here that I saw it. Oh, up to 12 undead. So 12 undead in the Bone Knight being a challenge 5, and those undead were challenge 3. This would be a pretty challenging encounter, I would say, for definitely a level 8 to level 10 adventuring party. Would find it okay, but when you're looking at 12 CR3 creatures, even if you have a level 8 player, a CR3 creature can still chip away pretty easily. So be cautious. Really look at how many actions are occurring, what's the size of your adventuring party, if you were going to do like a full 12. You could do the Bone Knight and maybe 4 undead and make this a decent challenge. You know, for if you had level 5 players, this would definitely be a deadly encounter. Level 6 would be a decent encounter, and level 7 would be a moderate encounter. So then we have the Changeling and the Clash Tar. They don't picture the Changeling and the Clash Tar both covered in the race section of the book, because these are new races, which we can cover that another time as well. But I do have models for the Clash Tar and the Changeling. This is the Clash Tar model. Oh, wow, look. It matches the picture. Clash Tar are interesting. They've bonded with spirits. They're descendant from monks. I don't know much about the Clash Tar. I need to read up more on them. And then you have the Changeling. It's an interesting model. The Changeling can take on the visual appearance and the voice of pretty much any equally sized creature they've encountered. They're quite a interesting race, and they do bring a lot of powerful features to a character class, especially maybe a character class that's playing more of the infiltrator or spy. The Changeling would definitely fit well in that. Mage Right. Mage Right covers a variety of things. Managed to get 2 Mage Rights that happen to look, well, drop that one, just like the picture. So the Mage Right is essentially talking about anybody that works in the cities of Corvair. Magic is every day, and these are artisans, workers that use basic spells, primarily cantrips and a few first level spells, to do their work. So it could be, this uses the reference as of a chef or a cook that's using prestidigitation to heat up and spice food. Or maybe you're a wood carver and you're using Mage Hand to hold a guiding ruler while you measure out your next cut. They mix in cantrips into their everyday life. The Shifter is another race that's added in the race section, and there's a couple variants to that, and this just kind of goes into that a little bit. I'm not going to cover the Shifter a whole lot because there's a whole race section on that. We do a video on the races. The Tarkin Assassin. So these do all the kind of assassinations and dirty work for the Tarkin house, for House Tarkin. And these are the model there. And the Tarkin Assassin is a challenge 2. So this is definitely something you can have your players encounter. Maybe they're doing something in opposition to House Tarkin. This here is just where the map was pulled out of. So this could easily be a series of encounters with different assassins. And then the Warforged soldier right here doesn't have the tabard, which is a shame. And the boots aren't nearly as beasty. Because this is just listed as a Warforged, along with the alternate sculpt right here, which is just blue cloak with mace. This one's a green cloak with sword. You know, you gotta love how they do that. I think this is it would be a great model. You can even see how he has the integrated blade arm, so that blade is just always there. I think this is a really cool model. Would have liked to have had a model for this. And that completes the beast section of the Eberron book. Kind of a few insights and opinions on those. There are other models that aren't covered in this section, like this one here. This is a half ogre. Let's see what else we have. Cadaver collector was not covered in the book. Nonkeg, which is covered in the standard monster manual. The Cloaker, which is also covered in, I believe, the Monsters Manual, but it could be Volo's or Mordekainen's. Corpse Flower, which is also covered in prior books. This is kind of a better Clashtar model. I was just seeing, notice that sitting there. I think that pretty much, oh, here we go. The Grey Render is the other medium, large model that came in the set. It was not covered in the book. But that's it. That covers that. I think the next video we'll take a look at races and kind of explore this book. I'm planning to do a campaign with my home group in here. So going through this and talking to you all about it is very helpful to me for planning the campaign. And this cover is just beautiful, beautifully done. Probably the best cover they've ever done. All right, thank you very much, and see you next time.